Hello everyone! The Naaru have been friends of the Draenei for a very long time, and we know that in Warlords of Draenor they'll get a part in the story. But who are they? Why do they help the Draenei? And what have they done for us? That's what I want to talk about in this video. Now keep in mind that there's a bunch of Naaru out there and I won't be able to cover each and every one of them. I will tell you the most important details, so let's just begin, shall we? To understand the Naaru, we'll have to go way back into the past, to the time where Sargeras paid a visit to a planet named Argus. The people on Argus called themselves Eredar and they had three powerful rulers: Kil'jaeden, Archimonde and Velen. Sargeras offered them great power, knowledge from all over the universe in return for their loyalty. Kil'jaeden and Archimonde thought that this was a great plan and were directly on board, but Velen had a feeling that something wasn't quite right. He went to their temple, which held the Atamal crystal, a crystal that was given to their people, and this was so long ago that none of the Eredar remembered who exactly gave it to them. As he meditated on what Sargeras was offering, he saw exactly what was promised: power, knowledge, loving people who worshipped them, but then he looked at himself and he saw something horrible. He was transformed into Manari, the Eredar word for something that is twisted, hideously and fundamentally wrong. He looked at Kil'jaeden and Archimonde to see the same transformation, and the loving people that would worship them were actually demons, corpses and nothing but destroyed planets. Velen knew that if he and the others would support Sargeras, then this would not just happen to one planet, the entire universe would fall. He snapped back out of his vision and realized that this had not happened yet. He could still change it, so he went to talk with Archimonde and Kil'jaeden, who were as close to him as brothers, but it did no good. They were already intoxicated from the future promised by Sargeras, and they didn't believe Velen. He returned to the Atamal crystal with despair in his heart and tears in his eyes. He knew that they had to flee, had to escape the planet. But how? In response, the Atamal crystal started to glow, and a voice inside his mind told him to touch it. The strange glowing field about the Atamal crystal grew, stretched upward, assumed a shape. Velen blinked, almost blinded by the radiance, but not wanting to look away. "You are not alone, Velen of the Eredar," the voice whispered to him. It was soothing, sweet, like the sound of flowing water and the rush of a summer wind. "We too have sensed the impending horrors about to befall this and other worlds. We strive to keep the balance, and what Sargeras is planning will rip apart everything. Utter chaos and ruination will descend, and the things that are good and true and pure and holy will be lost beyond recovery. We are the Naaru," the radiant entity said. "You may call me Kur." "This is where it all begins," Kur continued. "We cannot stop it, for your friends have free will, but you have reached out with an anguished heart to save what you can, and therefore we will do what we can. We will save those of you whose hearts reject the horror of what Sargeras offers." "But what do I do?" Again tears filled Velen's eyes, tears of relief and joy this time. "Gather those who listen to your wisdom. Go to the highest mountain in the land on the longest day of the year. Take the Atamal crystal with you. Long, long ago did we give it to you. It is how we will find you again. We will come and bear you away." And so Velen used his powers to touch the minds of those he knew could be trusted, who would listen to reason. One amongst them was Talgov, an old friend who he asked for help in finding more to come with them. Unknown to Velen was that Talgov would betray him. When all of his people gathered on the hill, ready to evacuate, Talgov and a few of the Eredar made the way up the mountain. Velen was about to walk towards them as the Atamal crystal, in the meantime he had taken it with him, sent him a warning. He could sense that Sargeras had already begun turning the Eredar into Manari. Thousands of them were surrounded the hill, and desperately Velen prayed. A prayer wrenched from the utter depths of his despairing soul, shivered up in his mind. "Kur, help us." He took the Atamal crystal and thrust it upwards to the sky, and a great shaft of white light shot through it, shattering the large crystal into 7 smaller pieces. Around the people that Velen had gathered, a large shield of light appeared, and above them was Kur, just as he promised. Kur had brought with him a vessel that would take Velen's people away, and he told Velen to take the 7 crystals, for he would surely need them. With all of the collected on board, they fled their planet, leaving behind those who would forever be a part of the Burning Legion. Kil'jaeden took this betrayal very personal, and he promised that he would find Velen and the rest of them, even if it took 1,000 years. From that moment on, the Eredar who evacuated the planets started to call themselves Draenei, which means exiled ones, and from that moment on, the chase was on. Kil'jaeden and the Burning Legion would find the Draenei would evacuate the planets before the Legion arrived. This went on for a lot of years, till the moment came that Khur fell ill, and they had to stay on a planet they would name Draenor, which means exile's refuge. Another race lived on Draenor, namely the Orcs, and the Orcs would make the crashed vessel of the Draenei a very holy place. Khur and the spirits of the Orcs, they became friends, and they were drawn to him. He would become a part of the Orcish culture, and they would unknowingly take care of the sick Naaru. They named the area Oshugan, and it would become a very holy place, a place where they would celebrate the Korsark festival. This festival is to celebrate the changing of seasons, and gave all the Orcish clans a chance to get together and communicate with each other. I'm going to have to keep the story between the Orcs and Draenei on a need-to-know basis, since I want to focus this video on the Naaru. Orcs and Draenei were not exactly allies, but they were also not each other's enemies. They traded with each other, but mostly kept to themselves. Kil'jaeden once again found the Draenei, and instead of sending his Burning Legion, he decided to use the Orcs to do the job. He corrupted them, manipulated them into becoming the Horde, and turned them against the Draenei. Velen tried to reason with the Orcs by inviting them to join him on a trip to Oshugan. He had a plan in mind of showing them what exactly it was that the Orcs were worshipping, the Naaru, but his plan failed miserably. This mountain is sacred to your people. We know this and we have respected it, but it is also sacred to us. Velen took a step forward, his gaze locked on Durotan's. The Orc warriors around him shifted, murmured, but otherwise did not move. Deep inside the mountain is a being that has long cared for the Draenei people, Velen continued. It is older by far than anything either of our minds can grasp, and more powerful. But even old and powerful things can die, and it is dying now. There is wisdom and grace and reconciliation we can have from it, your people and mine. We, blasphemer. Durotan stared. The bitter cry had sprung from the throat, not of some short-tempered warrior in the crowd, but from the orc who stood beside him. Drekvar's eyes were wide, and his body trembled with outrage. Veins stood out on his neck, and he shook his fist at Velen. Durotan was so shocked by the outburst that he did not silence it as quickly as he should have, and Drekvar continued. Oshugan belongs to us. It is the home of the beloved dead, cradler of their spirits, and your hideous cloven feet are not fit to take one step up its blast sides. Velen too seemed surprised at the outburst. He turned his attention to the shaman and stretched out a hand imploringly. Your spirits are housed within these walls, it is true, and I would never say it was not so, Velen cried. But they are drawn there because of this being. It seeks to... It was exactly the wrong thing to say. Instead of bringing peace, the orcs were insulted by Velen's story. A glowing Naaru beast who drawn in their spirits like a moth to a flame. That was not something they took lightly, and it took everything Durotan had to prevent his people from killing Velen on the spot. He would later release Velen, and as Velen returned to his people, he told them, "The orcs will not be dissuaded from this path," he said, "and therefore, if we are to survive, we too must walk the path of war." Far in the distance, broken, dying, resting as peacefully as possible, deep below the waters of the sacred pool, the being known as Khur uttered a deep, agonized cry. Velen stared, recognizing the voice, and bowed his head. With that, the Draenei and Orcs were at war, and although Velen desperately wanted to keep his people safe, he was told that he was needed for a greater plan. The army of light who would stand against the Legion and the darkness, and so Velen had to survive. They had to get Kil'jaeden off their tail, so they came up with a plan, and the plan was that Sha'tar city, which was the last major city of the Draenei, this was the last target that the Horde needed to exterminate. They left enough of their people behind to make it look like all of them were exterminated, and then Velen and the rest of his people moved to Zangarmarsh, where they hid away. The orcs fulfilled their mission, and Kil'jaeden believed Velen and the rest to be dead, so he left the orcs to their fate. The orcs would eventually start their first invasion of Azeroth, while the Draenei suffered. Some would devolve into broken or lost ones, while others remained sane enough to see the day where the Naaru would once again come to the rescue. This next part is a little bit vague as to when and how everything happened. Burning Crusade lore has been retconned a couple of times just to make more sense, but it's the story that we have, so we'll have to go with it. These are the events that transpired. The Alliance, they defeated the Horde, pushed them back to Outland and closed the portal behind them. Illidan, Lady Vash and Kael'thas Sunstrider made their way to Outland at the end of Warcraft 3 and they became the new rulers. Outland got more demonic activity and Khadgar of the Alliance used his powers to look for help in the Great Dark. There he found a Naaru named Adal and he managed to convince Adal to come and help them. Adal and the rest of his Naaru, who called themselves the Sha'tar, showed up with the vessels we call the Tempest Keep. They talked to Velen, and Velen told them about the prophecy that he had. I'll get back to this prophecy later, but what you need to know is that the Naaru named Muru had to stay behind and defend the Tempest Keep, because Kael'thas Sunstrider and his elves, they were going to attack it. Muru was just on his own, so he was captured and sent to Silvermoon, where the Blood Elves would use him as a source of power. Adal and the Sha'tar, they teamed up with the Aldor and they cleansed the city of Shafra, claiming it as a refuge. At one point, Illidan decided that it was a good idea to attack Shafra in the Naaru. We're not exactly sure why he attacked, because Illidan, he was building defenses against Kil'jaeden, so it seemed smarter to team up with the forces than actually attack them. But either way, he still sent the Blood Elves in an attack. The Aldor gathered up to defend the city, but instead the Blood Elves, they laid down their weapons in front of the city's defenders. Their leader, a Blood Elf elder known as Vormval, stormed into the Terrace of Light and demanded to speak with Adal. As the Naaru approached him, Vormval kneeled before him and uttered the following words. "I've seen you in a vision, Naaru. My race's only hope for survival lies with you. My followers and I are here to serve you." The defection of Vormval and his followers was the largest loss ever incurred by Kael's forces. And these weren't just any Blood Elves, many of the best and brightest amongst Kael's scholars and magisters had been swayed by Vormval's influence. And so the faction of Scryers made their home within the city and they started to fight for Adal. In the meantime, Velen, Nobundo and some of their people decided that it was time to leave Outland and search for more help on a different planet. They raided one of the vessels of Tempest Keep, namely the Exodar, and they captured it for themselves. The Blood Elves on board did manage to sabotage the ship and it crash landed on Azeroth, where the Draenei would team up with the Alliance. And somewhere amongst all of this, the Dark Portal reopened during the expansion called the Burning Crusade, and we, the people of Azeroth, got our first look at Outland. So that's how all of the Naaru got their own spot in the expansion, and of course the story continued. The Naaru Kur, the one who saved the Draenei from Argus, is still stuck in Oshu'gan, the Draenei their spaceship. This questline is only available to the Horde and it shows that Kur has darkened. This is a state that the Naaru can enter when they're injured and they need to heal themselves. A side effect of this darkened state is that it creates a void that sucks in the spirits of the dead. Kur doesn't do this willingly, he hasn't turned evil, it's just part of the darkened state a Naaru can go into, although it is very rare. In time, a Naaru can regenerate and return to the light, which we've seen with the Naaru named Dor. Dor was a Naaru who died when the Draenei crashed on Draenor. The Draenei then placed him within Akundun, and there he also became a void and started to absorb souls. This regenerated the light, and by the time that we do the questline, he's done regenerating and he's once again filled with the light. Dor tells us that there's nothing we can do about it, about these ancestors being absorbed, except destroying them before they become creatures of the void. And we do this by using the soul mirror. Once we use the mirror, we find out that the soul splits apart and we kill off the darkened part, and then I assume that the rest of the spirit goes away and finds eternal peace. We can only hope so. The third and also last Naaru that turned into this darkened state is the Naaru named Mur. Mur was the Naaru captured by Kael'thas and sent over to Silvermoon, where his people could suck his power out of him. However, Magister Astelar Bloodsworn was not happy with just sucking the energy out of him, so he and his fellow Magisters worked out a way to use Muru as a source of light. Many of the Blood Elves had stepped away from the light since they felt it had abandoned them after all the events with the Scourge. Now they had a new source for light, and it was Lady Liadrin who was the first to embrace this gift, and she became the first Blood Knight. Eventually they found out that Kael'thas was now working with Kil'jaeden and even the Burning Legion. Kael'thas, he wanted Muru back, so he attacked his own people in Silvermoon. Now with their source of light gone, Lady Liadrin traveled to Sha'tar City to meet with his leader Adal to find a new source of power. There, the prophecy made by Velen so long ago was revealed to Liadrin. Silvery moon, washed in blood, led astray into the night, armed with sword of broken light. Broken, then betrayed by one, standing there bestride the sun. At darkest hour, redemption comes, in knightly lady sworn to blood. This is the reason why Muru stayed behind and willingly sacrificed himself for the greater good. Upon hearing this prophecy, Liadrin stepped away from Kael'thas and pledged herself and the Blood Knights to Adal's cause, joining the Shattered Sun Offensive in its battle against Kael'thas and Kil'jaeden. Which leads us to the conclusion, the final confrontation of the Burning Crusade on the Isle of Kael'thas. Draenei and Blood Elf, Horde and Alliance, they all teamed up to stop Kil'jaeden from entering our world. Piece by piece we unlocked the island, even gaining the support of the Naaru named Kiru, until finally the Sunwell Plateau opened up. There we found Muru, again in his darkened state, and unfortunately we had to kill him. During his fight, he turned into Entropius, a void god, which seems to be the state a Naaru turns in when you push him beyond this darkened state. Although this Entropius void god could also be the cause of the Blood Elf meddling with him, we're not exactly sure. With Muru out of the way, the road is clear to take on Kil'jaeden and prevent him from entering Azeroth.
The expendable have perished, so be it. Now I shall succeed what Sargeras could not. I will bleed this wretched world, and secure my place as the true master of the Burning Legion. The end has come. Let the unraveling of this world commence.
With the world safe from the Burning Legion, Kil'jaeden back down his portal, Velen and Lady Liadrin show up and talk about the Sunwell and the core of Muru.
Mortal heroes, your victory here today was foretold long ago. My brother's anguished cry of defeat will echo across the universe, bringing renewed hope to all those who still stand against the Burning Crusade. As the Legion's final defeat draws ever nearer, stand proud in the knowledge that you have saved worlds without number from the flame. Just as this day marks an ending, so too does it herald a new beginning. The creature Entropius, whom you were forced to destroy, was once the noble Naaru, Muru. In life, Muru channeled vast energies of light and hope. For a time, a misguided few sought to steal those energies.
Our arrogance was unpardonable. We damned one of the most noble beings of all. We may never atone for this sin.
Then fortunate it is that I have reclaimed the noble Naaru's spark from where it fell. Where faith dwells, hope is never lost, young blood elf.
Can it be?
Gaze now, mortals, upon the heart of Muru. Unblemished, bathed by the light of creation, just as it was at the dawn. In time, the light and hope held within will rebirth more than this mere fount of power. Mayhap they will rebirth the soul of a nation.
Blessed ancestors! I feel it. So much love. So much grace. There are no words. Impossible to describe.
Salvation, young one. It waits for us all. Farewell.
The core of Muru, as it was at the dawn of creation, is used to reignite the Sunwell, giving the Blood Elves a chance for a future without having to drain the power out of beings. So all in all, what we know about the Naaru is that they're beings of pure light who are nearly immortal and hell-bent on fighting the Burning Legion. We don't know where they came from. We don't know where the Atamal crystal came from. We don't know why they're so against the Legion, besides the Legion being evil. We've seen that the Naaru, they can enter different stages, but as I said before, this Darkened State, this Void State and even the core of Muru is a very rare thing for the Naaru. Blizzard had the following to say. Because 3 cases of this cycle have been demonstrated in Nagrand, Akundun and Sunwell Plateau, Kur, Dor and Muru respectively, players may have received the wrong impression with regard to the magnitude and rarity of these events. It is exceedingly rare for a Naaru to fall into a void state, and even rarer for a fallen Naaru to be brought back into the light. A Naaru's fall into the void represents a catastrophic loss for the Naaru and for the forces of the light, and it is the saddest, most heart-wrenching event for the Naaru to witness. Conversely, a Naaru being reborn into the light brings renewed hope and sense of purpose to every Naaru. If energy beings could weep tears of joy, this would do it. So just because a couple of the Naaru showed these states, that doesn't mean that it's a common thing. What we do see time and time again is that the Naaru are connected to the light. There's a lot of speculation around this, about them being the source of all light, about them being Elune, the Night Elf goddess, but that's a story I want to save for the next video. For now, thank you very much for watching everyone. Subscribe if you like my videos, and until next time guys, see ya!